Hello, this is Mr. Hornsby 3. This is the Mr. Hornsby 3 show. And today, I'm going to be talking about cartoons we watched as kids that we didn't know were anime. I was going to talk about some, properties from Marvel to, video games and all that made animes throughout the 90s. And even some in the 2000s. So, yeah, we're going to talk about all that. And, let's get on with the show. I really don't get on. Well, wait a minute. One thing I got to get off my chest. I didn't do it Monday because, it was, talking about my brother passing 3 years ago. But I want to give a FU shout out to Planet Fitness for having 2 fucking days to have things prepared by Monday, and they tell people they can't come in until 5 o'clock Monday. Really screwed up my schedule this week because I don't like going no later than frickin' 12. And it really screwed up my schedule this week. I came home, worked out on my chest today, and I just said screw it. I came home working on my chest Monday. And my triceps, so I said screw it. You know what? I'll just wait till next week, get myself back in the mindset of working out and frickin'... but that kind of thing is going to cause people to frickin' join Crunch Fitness, which ain't too far from you all, if you keep it up. Now, I'm not going to join Crunch because, I'm a frickin', more convenient for me to go to Planet, so yeah. So ready? 3, 2, 1. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you! Planet Fitness for that nonsense. You had 2 freaking days. You opened back up on the 5th, and you did not have everything fixed by Monday. What is wrong with you? So, yeah. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. I was really looking forward to going in and seeing whatever the new stuff they put in. They better have a freaking decline thing. So I'll find out next week when I go in. They better have decline stuff. Now, I'm like, well, I'll take the week off because I did do cardio for 3 weeks straight. So, like, screw it. I could probably afford to take this week off, but then I gotta get back in there next week and get back to work. But, some people feel like you could never afford to take a week off. And I get that too, because, But it's like, shoot, I did 3 straight weeks of cardio and nothing but cardio, so hey. And I kept myself pretty active while I was frickin', while they were frickin' shut down from the frickin' Father's Day all the way until last Saturday. Just makes no sense. How do you have that much time to frickin' do that? You have 2 days and you just still didn't have everything ready. You were open 2 days straight. I don't know. Really screwed off my schedule this week because I was planning on getting back, hitting the gym for these next few weeks, and frickin', hoping I didn't lose anything over it. But you know what? Screwed up everything because my wife forgot to put the $2 in the thing for Tuesday, so I couldn't go Tuesday. And like today, I'm just like, you know what, screw it. And plus, when I worked out in my backyard with it blazing hot and nearly killed myself. So, yeah. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get into this. So, the first freaking anime I want to talk about, that was a cartoon I watched as a kid, and I didn't know it was an anime. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other people didn't know, because I know I've seen a lot of other people say, I didn't even know this was an anime. Just recently when I was talking to Gene. He's like, I didn't know this was an anime. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Voltron. Voltron is an anime. And nobody that grew up watching Voltron had a freaking clue it was a freaking anime. I'm like, well, wait a minute. It's an anime? So really, my first introduction to anime was Voltron. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's an anime. Alright, next up. This show really shocked me because, well, I wasn't a big fan of it. Kind of bored me to tears because all they were doing was just racing. I know a lot of people probably in the comment section are going to bash me for this, but Speed Racer. Speed Racer was so freaking boring. I swear to God, Speed Racer was such a boring cartoon. All they did was race. And occasionally have some action scenes in that. But apparently that was an anime. So Speed Racer was an anime. Voltron was an anime. Look, I watched Voltron here and there. I'm not saying I didn't. I watched, not Voltron, Speed Racer. I watched it here and there, but I did not realize that show was an anime. That would probably explain why it's so boring sometimes. Well, it's the most boring anime in my opinion, because I'm not a big fan of racing and watching it on TV every single week. Because, you know, Speed Racer was on every single week. Alright, now let's get to another one, and I'll talk about some couple ones that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s that, you know, probably, you know, I kind of felt they were anime, but I didn't know for sure. So it was confirmed. Actually, I didn't even know they were anime, but hey, I'll talk about those in a minute. But then we had a cartoon come out in the 90s called Ronin Warriors. Now I know it's called something else, and they even got the different title of the show on Tubi. And I did not know that that cartoon was an anime, because I liked Ronin Warriors. I enjoyed watching it. Sucks that it got canceled after, what, 1 or 2 seasons? That show should be brought back. It was a good show. But I should have figured something like it was an anime when the damn dog looks like it's about to die. And in a cartoon, you never seen the dog look like it was about to die. So, you know, it just went kaput on that. Just died. Also, I mean, they've classified the Spawn animated series as an anime. I really don't count it as an anime. It's a deep, dark comic book cartoon, but it is an anime. Well, they classify it as anime. They also classify Heavy Metal, the first one, and 2000 as anime as well. But you can find both of those in the anime section anytime they're on a platform. Spawn, on the other hand, you know, I just seen that as a cartoon. A dark, nudity-filled cartoon. Also had a lot of blood and violence in it. You know, a lot of sexual stuff in it. And, you know, I love the Spawn anime series. It was great. Keith David was great as Spawn. The guy that played the clown, I don't know, his voice sounded... I mean, when you see John Leguizamo's portrayal, and you compare it to the cartoons, he just sounds generic. I wish they would have gave it more than just 6 episodes per season, because that show only had like 6 episodes for 3 seasons. The last episode was where Spawn impregnated Wanda after he found a way to make himself look human again, and he made himself look like Terry and impregnated Wanda. And apparently they carried it over into the comic book. I wish McFarlane would revive that Spawn cartoon, because it was good. And it deserved more than 3 freaking seasons, man. I mean, Keith David's older now. Probably can't get away with half the stuff you got away with in the original Spawn cartoon, because that came out in 97. So did the movie. That came out in 97 as well. But yeah, it's classified as anime. Same with Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal 2000. Which I'm pretty sure people knew those were anime. But let's talk about one more thing. Actually, we'll get into it. Let's talk about 2 cartoons that were pretty popular. And that was Digimon and Pokemon. And guess what? They're anime. They're not normal cartoons, they're anime. Yeah, they're kiddie anime. They're in the vein of something like, I don't know, half the Netflix anime they got on there these days. Remember when Netflix did have some good anime on there? Such as, you know, Berserk was on there. That's where I saw Berserk. Seven Deadly Sins. They got a Castlevania anime, which I'll talk about that when I get the properties that turned into freaking animes. I have a Pokemon Digimon anime. But guess what else is an anime? I just thought it was a better cartoon than the original cartoon, but apparently it was an anime. And I'm like, well, it's just a video game cartoon. Nope. Sonic X. Sonic X is an anime. It's classified as anime. If you look at the anime section, it's in the anime section. You know, all that stuff. So, yeah. Those are some of the cartoons that I did not know were anime growing up. Even though I was a little bit older and I knew more about anime at the time that Digimon and Pokemon and Sonic X came out. So, yeah. And Heavy Metal 2000. But they are anime. So, technically my first venture, I said it was Vampire Hunter D. Then the Street Fighter animated movie. Well, actually it was freaking Voltron that was my first introduction to anime. And, you know, it would make sense. It's a little bit darker than your typical Saturday morning cartoon was at the time. You also got to think about, you know, same with Speed Racer. It's a little bit darker than what a typical... Usually Saturday morning cartoons was a villain had a plan, the heroes destroyed that plan, and then the heroes would win, and, you know, the villain would be the comic relief. And those shows, they were not. I mean, that goes from He-Man to G.I. Joe. Now, G.I. Joe, I'd say, had a little bit more darker moments as a cartoon. But that goes with He-Man, G.I. Joe, Cops, you know. All the freaking good old cartoons from the 90s. Yeah, but I think G.I. Joe was a little bit darker than a lot of people give it credit for. People say, oh, it just was campy and that. I'm sitting here watching the 87 Ninja Turtles cartoon. And boy, I look at that, I still enjoy watching it, but I'm like, wow, this is way campier than something G.I. Joe would do or something. But, yeah, I mean, that's why, you know, yeah, the 87 cartoon is second underneath the 2003 cartoon. And you got 2012 under the 87 cartoon, because it mixed both 2003 and 2012 perfectly. But I'm going to say frickin' 2003 is still the best of the Turtle shows. Unless you want to talk about Turtles Next Mutation. I know a lot of people do not want to hear about Turtles Next Mutation. Yeah, I just said it as a joke. Anyway, now let's get into some properties. I talked about the cartoons that we didn't know were animes growing up. Now I'm going to talk about cartoon properties or comic book properties and all that stuff that became anime. And of course we're going to start out with, I just talked about Ninja Turtles. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles made an anime. It came out years ago. I never saw it, so I can't really say too much about it. But yeah, it was pretty much close to the, from my understanding, it was pretty much close to the vein as the 87 cartoon was. So yeah. So Ninja Turtles made an anime. Now let's talk about video games that have been turned into anime. I done talked about Sonic X, but Street Fighter, they had 3 animes and an anime TV show. They had Street Fighter V, Street Fighter the animated series, animated movie, and they had the 2 Alpha movies. You know, I'm going to talk about the Street Fighter movies, the casting for Street Fighter movies somewhere along the line, sometime soon. But yeah, so yeah, Street Fighter got made into an anime. Mortal Kombat also had an anime. You know that freaking introduction to the movie? That VHS that came alongside with the live action movie, that was considered an anime. And it has anime elements in it. I mean, heck, they talk about the Great Kung Lao that beat Goro, and then Goro just beat the hell out of him. Well, he didn't beat Goro, he beat Shang Tsung. Goro beat the hell out of him and killed him. Yeah, Mortal Kombat had an anime. I guess you could call some of their newer animated movies anime, but I don't really count those as anime because, you know, Those are cartoon movies. Cartoon movies. X-Men, Iron Man, Wolverine, and Blade all got turned into animes. I'm going to talk about the Wolverine anime first because you know what? The story was compelling enough to keep me watching, but I did not like how Wolverine looked in the Wolverine anime. And I'm like, well, you know what? This was running at the same time the X-Men anime was running back in 2011. So why is that Wolverine in that anime not in this anime? Yeah, we don't want to see no frickin' clean shaven, you know, not looking grizzled up Wolverine. Looking like a freaking anime. I mean, Wolverine in the Wolverine anime looked like an anime character. And the funny thing is, they had Sabretooth show up. No, Sabretooth didn't show up, but they had Omega Red show up in that show. And a couple other Wolverine's villains, like Silver Samurai. And they looked way better than what Wolverine looked in the X-Men anime, in the freaking Wolverine anime. I'm like, how the hell does Omega Red, one of my favorite X-Men villains, and frickin' Silver Samurai, how do they look way better than Wolverine? I mean, seriously. And then let's get into the frickin' X-Men anime. But that's the only thing I didn't like about the Wolverine anime, because he didn't look like Wolverine. The voice just didn't sound like Wolverine. The voice actor, he tried to do the best he could, but he just couldn't give us that, you know, the frickin' Cal Dot, Steve Blum versions of Wolverine that we were used to. Funny thing is, Steve Blum also played Wolverine in the X-Men anime, and he sounded way better and looked way better, because Wolverine in the X-Men anime looked like Wolverine. He didn't look like a damn skinny ass anime character, a skinny ass main anime character in the X-Men anime. He actually looked like Wolverine. If anything, Cyclops looked like the freaking anime character. But, I mean, how do you run these shows at the same time? You probably worked on them at the same time, and you couldn't use the same art for the freaking anime of the X-Men for Wolverine anime just because they were going to be in Japan? Or it was going to be based in Japan? I mean, and you look at the Iron Man anime. Iron Man looks like Iron Man. So why did Wolverine not look like Wolverine in the Wolverine anime? Then you look at the Blade anime. Blade looked like Blade. But only this time he was bald. He didn't have the box cut that Wesley Snipes, or that was famous for Blade. And then I know from the Spider-Man animated series Blade. And you know, the Wesley Snipes Blade movies. He was bald, but he still looked like Blade. He didn't look like a skinny anime character. A skinny main anime character guy. So I don't get why they did that. I just don't get it. I don't know why they did that crap. That's just ridiculous that they would do that to freaking Wolverine. And they would play these anime back to back when G4 got the rights to them, because that was a big announcement that they teased, what was it, a few months earlier, and then they finally announced it, like, oh, here's our big announcement. We get to see the Marvel anime. You know, and I wish the X-Men anime and the Blade and Iron Man anime all would have got renewed. Because those shows ended on a cliffhanger. I watched the Japanese versions. Those shows ended on a cliffhanger. The X-Men anime ended on a cliffhanger. I mean, yeah, the Wolverine anime ended on a cliffhanger too. Iron Man kind of ended on a cliffhanger, and so did frickin' Blade. So why didn't we get those renewed? I don't know. I think it had something to do with rights deals. You know, I always talk about cartoons that have done anime formats, such as X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman, all that stuff. But, you know. I've never, delved deep. Now, I've reviewed some of these anime in the past. I've reviewed the Wolverine anime. I've reviewed the X-Men anime. And it was right here on YouTube, I believe. Years ago. When before I, got off of YouTube for a bit. I guess you could say I took a break from it. And, like I said, that break kind of helped me, build my craft better on YouTube when I was doing the Facebook stuff, because I just, like, you know what, screw this, quit trying to be someone else. Be your damn self on here. That's what I've done since I've been back on YouTube. And it's been pretty successful for me. So, yeah. Anyway. I was trying to sound like what I thought people would want me to sound like and all that jibber jabber. Heck. WrestleFigure reviews. Everybody goes into articulation. I didn't do that freaking Monday. I freaking went into, putting Stone Cold next to his greatest rivals, putting Stone Cold how he looks in all the other gear and all that stuff. So, yeah. Let's see, what else made an anime? We also, I guess you could say Ninja Batman. Kind of an anime. Because it's based, around the anime style and all that. So, I'd say Ninja Batman, which came out like several years ago. That's an anime. Even like G.I. Joe made an anime. What other video games had animes? I think Tekken. I know Street Fighter did, because I just talked about the Street Fighter anime. Mortal Kombat had that one anime to get people ready for the frickin' movie. I just talked about the Marvel ones. I just talked about Ninja Batman. But there was a couple other. Now, apparently, my cousin Brandon swears up and down, and maybe it is, maybe it's not, but he says that he watched an anime years and years ago. It was a Batman anime where Joker confessed he had the hots for Batman and he wanted to be with Batman and all that stuff. Now, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Because I keep up on anime. I'm like, I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that anime. Yeah, Ninja Batman, I know that's an anime because they recently came out with that a few years ago. But I've never heard of this Batman anime where Joker was gay for Batman. So I don't know. Maybe so. But, I don't know. I told Brandon, I'm like, you ever find proof of it, let me know and I'll talk about it. But, yeah. So, we'll see. But, yeah, he says there's an anime out there. It's a Batman anime where Joker said he wanted to be with Batman. I'm not saying he's lying because you never know. I didn't know about animes like, Berserk and all that crap. So, I can't say there isn't one out there. So, yeah. But I gotta say, if he ever finds it and he shows me, then I'll talk about it. Probably an anime month. And I'll probably watch the anime because, I'm a big Batman fan, I'm a big anime fan, so yeah. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all I got to talk about with anime stuff. Like, I talked about the cartoons we didn't know were anime. I talked about, properties that made anime. Hey, they say Spawn. Like I said, Spawn's classified as anime. I guess because there's sex in it. And there's boobs, and there's vaginas, and there's butts, and all that stuff. So, I guess it is. Yeah, one thing I will say, I am surprised with last week's freaking Twilight of the Dark Master video. It's been kind of popular. I'm like, wow. A lot of people must feel the same way about Twilight of the Dark Master that I do. And, a lot of people like the final Mortal Kombat video I did last week, too. I just wish more people would tune in to King of the Figures. Now, if more people don't, I said, well, you gotta tune in to King of the Figures to see the frickin' Halloween Figure Havoc play out. I might still do Halloween Figure Havoc, and I just might do away with the King of the Figures concept. Anyway, next year I'm already planning. I already got plans for what I'm doing next year with WrestleFigure events. But we'll see how Halloween Figure Havoc goes this year. But, yeah. So, yeah. People are interested in what I talked about with Twilight of the Dark Master. It's kind of like last year when I did a review of Predator 2, and I said, this movie is a better sequel than so many other sequels, outside of Prey. And a lot of people agreed with me. So, you know, maybe that's what Twilight of the Dark Masters will get, will become. I don't know. Next week, not sure what I'm going to do next week. You know, I might talk about Daima, but then I might do a review of Ninja Scroll. I don't know, I'll wait and see. Whatever I feel like talking about. Daima just premiered onto Daima. Oh yeah, another cartoon that I didn't talk about that I didn't know was a cartoon or an anime. I thought it was just another stupid girls cartoon, and that was Sailor Moon. But it's actually an anime. I'm like, heck, anything that's on Toonami should be an anime. I mean, I guess you could say Thundercats, you know. I'm not gonna say Thundercats, but yeah, maybe Thundercats. Like, I didn't even know Death Note. I didn't know that was an anime until like years later after that show aired. I wasn't even interested in watching the show. I'm like, I don't care about this show. You know, it's been labeled an anime, so. But, yeah. I was like, yeah, Sailor Moon, that's not no anime, that's a kiddie cartoon. Actually, it's a, anime. My wife grew up watching that, Sailor Moon, you know. A lot of girls I know grew up watching that. I think my sister even watched it for a bit. My little sister. I don't know about my older sister. Yeah, so. I don't know, man. I always pay attention to cartoons because you never know if it's an anime or not. If it feels like it's got that anime storyline and it's got that darkness that anime usually has in their shows, then it's an anime. But if it's something campy like from the 80s or something, then it's a freaking cartoon. I guess I think a lot of people have tried to say Teen Titans is anime, the original one. I'm not going to go there. I'm like, yeah, it's took some things from the anime format, kind of like X-Men did, Spider-Man, you know, 2003 Turtles, Batman, all that stuff they took from that anime format. That don't make them anime. You know, like Spawn. I don't consider it an anime. I consider it an adult cartoon of a superhero that a lot of people, you know, was really popular at the time. Because I was a big Spawn fan. I even got a Spawn figure over there. But, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'll let you guys know if we're going to talk about Daima or if we're going to review Ninja Scroll or whatnot. And Monday, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I guess when I post on my Facebook fan page, I'll let people know. So, we'll see. But, anyway, let me know if there's any freaking cartoons that were anime that I didn't talk about on this video. I mean, on the comments. Like this video, subscribe for more, hit the bell notification thing, whatever. And tune in Friday for my live stream playthrough of Super Mario Bros. I did Super Mario World. Now I'm doing Super Mario Bros. I already did Mario 3, and I don't want to, you know, go back and do it just to get it in the live stream format. I'll probably go back to it maybe a year or two from now and do a live stream of it then. But, you know, right now I got that video up. So, yeah. But, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll, like, review one of the arcs from Dragon Ball Z next week. It depends. It'll either be Daima, Ninja Scroll, or Dragon Ball Z arc. And Monday, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll think of something, you know. But, I'll catch you guys Friday. Peace out. Oh yeah, I will do a, not my Newport video tomorrow. And next Tuesday, I do know next Tuesday, I'm going to do a wrestling figure event rewind. And I made a mistake. I said it was Figurecade. It was actually, I think the first Wrestle Figure Mania as well that I did the Sting Hogan Starrcade match do-over. So, I don't know. But, I'll have that rewind next Tuesday in the evening time. And then, I'm not changing the outcome of that. And then after that, I'll do Stone Cold and Goldberg. I'll probably do that in August. Probably early August, I don't know. And then I'll probably hold off until next year to do some more of the rewinds of some of the best matches I put on Facebook Live. But it depends on how King of the Figures do. It depends on how Halloween Figure Havoc does. And it depends on how, these do when I put them up. If that first one doesn't do well, I probably won't do another one. Who knows? I don't know. But we'll see. That'll do it. Excuse me. Catch you guys later. Peace out.